We are in the middle of August, and I know that there's many leagues that have already done their 2025 rookie draft. But there's also a lot of leagues that have not done their 2025 rookie draft. And so that's why we're here today doing a 1 QB mock for those late comers that are doing it more around redraft time. We want to make sure that we're here for you as well. So it is our final rookie mock of this class. And then we're going to be looking ahead to 2026. So I have some good friends with me. I have Tristan Cook. Tristan, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. We got the Taylor Swift album announced, so it's a good day over here.
There you go. He'll be picking the 101. The 102 is going to be Taylor Christensen. Taylor, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Headed out on vacation tomorrow, so want to put everything I can into this one last mock so I can come back fresh, ready to go for the 2026 season. Happy to be here.
There we go. And then I will be picking third. So let's get right into it. Tristan, you have the first pick.
So I'm going to go with Ashton Jeanty. I think it's the easiest pick of any rookie draft you have at this point. So, yeah, not a lot to say about him that hasn't been said. I'm excited to see him play.
So the negative yardage on 3 carries didn't scare you off in the first preseason week?
It did not. It may have scared somebody off, and if it did, I hope the people in that
you
league
pick right behind him
for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, not for me. I'm still happy to take him at 101. I mean, like, I'd love to take Travis Hunter because I love Travis Hunter as a prospect, but the reality is I'm either taking Jeanty or I'm trading the pick. There's no way I'm taking somebody else there.
Low key, that was the reason you got the 101. But it looks like Taylor said, screw it. I'm going to take him anyway. So who did you take at 102? I'm trying to get a realistic mock here, and you guys hate me. But, Taylor, tell me why you took Travis Hunter at 102.
If this was a draft, I would be taking him at 102 as well. This is as realistic as it can get here. I love Travis Hunter. His talent is there. I don't want to bet against it. I know that Hampton is getting a lot of press right now. Everyone's happy to have him on their teams. High expectations for him, but I got to go with the guy that I think could be a game changer at his position. And Travis Hunter, even if he's still playing on defense, I think needs to be on my team.
I knew I should have picked that 102. Done messed up. But we have Travis Hunter at 102. In real life, though, I'm thrilled because for me, Travis Hunter, honestly, isn't even in the equation for me at 102. It's between Omarion Hampton and TreVeyon Henderson as to who I'm going to take. TreVeyon Henderson has shown nothing but amazing things in camp. We saw in the week 1 of the preseason exact replica of what I thought we were going to be getting out of him. But I'm still slightly higher on Omarion Hampton. I really, really like this player. I think that he has a chance to be a 1,700 yard rusher on the ground. Maybe not right this season, but in the very near future, I think this team is going to be utilizing the running game a ton, and it is a good offensive line now. Slightly worse offensive line now with Rashawn Slater going down, which is very unfortunate. But long-term, he'll be there, and that is good for Omarion Hampton. So, Tristan, that puts you back on the clock at 104.
It does. The Chargers do seem to be cursed. I don't know what it is. The Harbaugh connection didn't break the curse, but I'm going to take. I was going to take whichever one of those 2 running backs you didn't take. I would have been really surprised if it wasn't Hampton, especially Dynasty. Like, sure, there's a little nick in his value for this year, but long term, I love it. And I love TreVeyon Henderson. He was my running back 1 going into the 2024 college football season. So to get him here at 104 after a promising start to his NFL career also, sign me up. I'd rush to the podium or to the draft button, depending on the league, and submit that pick because I'm thrilled to get those 2 running backs.
All right, Taylor, you're up then at 105.
Well, you're going to go with 2 running backs, and I'm going to go with 2 wide receivers. I'm going to go with Tetairoa McMillan, T-Mac, Tet, whatever we want to call him. He has the highest potential, I think, this year to have a breakout wide receiver 1 season. I think that he has the makings with a pocket passer in Bryce Young and just the volume that he could see. Give me Tet McMillan for redraft as well.
Yeah, and I really put myself in a tough spot giving me the third pick here, because this would have been easy a little while back. It would have been Quinshon Judkins, done and done. We're moving on. But with this being a 1 QB, so that kind of eliminates Cam Ward there, and all of the issues that we have surrounding Quinshon Judkins, he is falling a little bit right now. And as tempted as I am, because I believe in the player, to still take him here, I got to go with another guy that I think was arguably, outside of Ashton Jeanty, the safest player in the draft, and that's Mr. Emeka Egbuka. Everything out of camp has been exactly what we saw him do at Ohio State. Some great catches, amazing body control, good routes, like just everything you want out of a wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka has. Now, am I projecting him to be, eventually in the Jefferson and Chase tier and that kind of thing? No, not necessarily. But I think I have, at worst, a high-end wide receiver 2 long-term. And that is a very, very good asset to have, especially when you can get them at 106. So I took him there. Tristan, who are you going to take now at 107?
I'm really tempted to take Judkins. For me, it's I'm still going running back here. So like I think Egbuka is a really safe pick, like you said, and I'd be tempted if you hadn't taken him. It's tough. I think ultimately I actually am going to go with Judkins. Just thinking about it, I was leaning Harvey or Kaleb Johnson, but I obviously don't love the way that his rookie career or his career has started from a fantasy perspective. Off the field, like non-fantasy related issues aside, it's not the way you want to start an NFL career. But as you said, like if you're looking from a fantasy perspective, the talent was there, and is very apparent. And, assuming that there aren't ongoing legal issues, or that this gets kind of resolved in a way even, quicker than people are expecting, I think ultimately this will end up being a good value pick at 107. So yeah, I'm going Judkins.
Makes a lot of sense. I was curious to see if I would get him or not. Taylor is doing takesy backsies. He made a pick and then he said, just kidding, don't want to do that. So Taylor, who did you decide to go with at 108?
Yeah, I go back and forth on this right now. Fortunately for me,
yeah.
I only have one QB draft left, and I do not have the 108, but I'm going with Kaleb Johnson. I was back and forth with Tyler Warren. I think that the positional advantage at tight end is still there, even though it's not a premium. But in the end, running back is where I want to hang my hat with this class. And I do think that Kaleb Johnson has as much of an opportunity as anyone to lead the rookies in year one. So,
no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And without the premium, I'm going to follow suit. I'm a bigger Kaleb Johnson guy, but I'm still okay taking RJ Harvey here in a 1 QB league with no tight end premium. If this was a super flex league, he would be closer to falling to the second round for me, which I know is much lower than consensus. But I'm just not as high personally on the player. I do think J.K. Dobbins is going to be very, very annoying for him this year, and we'll see what happens beyond. But I do think he's a talented enough player, and I think this is a good enough offense and offensive line for him to still be productive, even if he's not getting 220 carries and another 80 targets. Even without that crazy type of volume, I still think could be a very effective player. So I'm okay taking RJ Harvey here, but I hear you. The tight ends were fairly tempting there to take as well. So Tristan, I know you're not a big tight end early guy. Are you going to zig when we've zagged, or are you still are you gonna still zag and go?
I'm gonna still zag.
Okay.
I'm just not a early tight end guy. Like the end of the first round isn't a terrible value for a first round NFL draft tight end, but it's just not the way I want to draft in rookie drafts. I'd rather take swings at earlier drafted wide receivers and running backs, and try to hit on a mid-round tight end in the mid-rounds of my rookie draft. So I'm going Matthew Golden. He's a first-round NFL draft pick. I think end of the first round is good value. I was obviously looking at wide receiver here because one QB, I'm not taking a QB here. As I mentioned, I'm not a big tight end person here, and the running backs I would have considered are all off the board. So it was really just pick which receiver I liked, and I feel like I have a lot of Jack Bech. So, and I think that, Golden was drafted slightly earlier than him, and it's not that I dislike him. So I think that taking Golden at the end of the first in a 1 QB league is going to be good enough value for maybe a slightly riskier pick, but I'm still excited about a first round wide receiver at the end of the first.
Well, Taylor, it looks like you get to have your cake and eat it too. Who'd you get at 111?
Yeah, I went with Tyler Warren. My finger slipped, or else I would have put it in there a little bit faster, I think. Yeah, I really do think that there's a positional advantage to be had with Tyler Warren. I think he could be the next iteration of George Kittle, maybe even a little bit more dynamic in the offensive scheme because he won't be asked to block quite as much as Kittle has been over the years. So I really like Warren a lot. Maybe not as much for this first year as we did coming in, just with the way the quarterbacks are shaking out. But even if it's Daniel Jones, I think he can float him into a low-end tight end 1 on any week basis. So,
yeah, I think that's a fantastic value getting him there because I know you were considering him at 1.8. I was considering him at 1.9. So to get him at 1.11 is a great spot. I have the last pick in the first round. I ended up following suit. I went with Colston Loveland. I think you get lower returns in year 1 from Colston Loveland, but we know more what we have stylistically in a Colston Loveland. He follows the more traditional pass catching tight end type of scenario and type of role. I do think he is the better pass catcher of the two. However, Tyler Warren can be used in a myriad of different ways, which does make him very valuable. And he could be one of those guys that has a couple rushing touchdowns, and it wouldn't shock me. So he's a chess piece that you can move all around the offense. Colston Loveland, your more traditional kind of power slot tight end type of player. I do think we're going to see great returns from him long term. We just might not get as much out of him in year 1. So wrapping up the first round, let me recap. 101, we had Ashton Jeanty, then Travis Hunter, Omarion Hampton, TreVeyon Henderson, Tetairoa McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, Quinshon Judkins, Kaleb Johnson, RJ Harvey, Matthew Golden, Tyler Warren, and then Colston Loveland to wrap up the first round. We're on to round 2 now. Tristan, where are you going?
We're on to Cincinnati, as Bill Belichick liked to say. But I'm going to go with Jack Bech. I mentioned him briefly earlier. I think in the receivers in this range, he is the one that has the quickest opportunity to be a fantasy contributor for hopefully a contending team or really any team. But he's going to have the quickest return and potentially the route to being maybe not a top end wide receiver 1, but flirting on that wide receiver 10 to 15 range on any given season. And I would be thrilled with a second round pick returning that kind of value. So I'm going Bech. One note on Tyler Warren. I actually hope Daniel Jones is the starter if I have Tyler Warren, because I think he's going to do better for Warren. But yeah, Bech is my pick here. It looks like Taylor swooped up the guy that I was considering if I didn't go Bech. So I'll let him get into the 202 pick.
Yeah, go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I took Jaden Higgins. I think there's a lot of people out there who believe in his talent and like where he went in the draft. By making this pick, I'm probably not holding on to him. I'm probably looking to turn him around for one of these players, maybe who didn't have, or managers who didn't have a chance to get into the draft. This is a guy who, if you add a future second, you can get a future first very easily for him after the dust has settled. I like that sort of value. Even if he does pop and become something, I'm not sure that he ever really reaches that true tier 1 stratosphere that people maybe think that he could do. So I think there's a good value to be had that after draft day, Jaden Higgins' value just skyrockets for people.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick, and I am thrilled to finally be able to get this guy on one of these drafts. I have not gotten him yet, but I try to stay reasonable, and I don't want to overdraft players, and that's part of the reason I haven't got him yet. But he finally fell into the spot where I'm really comfortable taking him, kind of that in-between running back that I think a
We're
lot of
already in
people
the
are.
third round?
Huh?
I said we're already in the third round?
Can you let me talk about Cam Skattebo without being a jerk? Come on, Tristan.
Never.
Cam Skattebo at 2-3. I got him here, and he is kind of in this awkward middle range. The guys that go early in the first round, he's not quite following in with those guys. But he's also not following in with your typical 4th and 5th round picks either. So he kind of finds himself in most drafts in this kind of island all by himself with the wide receivers. And so you're kind of trying to decide when to take him. And there are a lot of good reports out of camp. Obviously, a player of his style, he's not getting to break tackles and make guys miss like that because they don't have pads on in training camp and things like that. But what did he do? All right, he said, okay, I'll show off my pass catching chops. We saw multiple highlights from him, some toe tapping sideline catches, some one-handed grabs, very good things out of Cam Skattebo in the receiving game that we saw. Unfortunately, due to an injury, we didn't get to see him in the first week preseason game, but my enthusiasm for Skattebo has not waned at all. So now this puts you back on the clock, Tristan.
It does, which is great because I knew that with you going to take Skattebo here, I was going to be given the choice of the two receivers that I like in this range. I went with Luther Burden just on the potential ceiling there. Now, Chicago's obviously kind of a filled skill position room team with wide receiver, tight end, not necessarily running back, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. But I think that like Burden may not have a lot of return early, but I like his skill set, or at least what we've seen him do in the past, and the potential that maybe he could turn more into the like Amon-Ra style fit into an offense where you're getting a lot of like manufactured shorter A-dot type of touches, but also the ability to go down the field. Just getting, one of your best playmakers the ball and letting him see what he can do. And in a PPR league, that's great because, you're getting points for all those quick little screen passes or dump offs or things like that.
Absolutely. I know you guys have very different views on the tight end position. Did that affect your pick here, Taylor?
Actually, when I look at each one of these picks, I try to pretend that I only have one pick in this draft. I don't really think about the other ones that I've made. So if I only have one pick at the 205 here and the players on the board look the way they do, I'm going to go with Mason Taylor because to me, he's going to be an exciting player for a lot of people. There's going to be someone out there who's thin at tight end, whether it's a premium or not. You'll be able to leverage that at some point. He's a little bit banged up right now. I know that that's got some people worried, but this is Dynasty, so I would rather have a guy who has a very high ceiling with a long shelf life. He's only 20 years old. So there's nothing I can say negatively about the other guys on the board right now in this range. But for me, I'm going to go with Mason Taylor.
I think that's a solid pick. I have no issue with it. But we had a guy that's fallen a little bit too far for me. Even in 1 QB, Cam Ward falling all the way to 2.6. I get it. You take quarterbacks late. But a guy that goes 101 overall and has the type of ceiling that he has, I think is really, really good value for this type of range. I was already actually considering him, even, if I would have had 2-1, 2-2, I would have started considering him in there. I was considering him at 2-3 when I made my Skattebo pick. And so here, I think he's just a really good value. So that pushes us back to Tristan. Who do you have at 2.7?
This is the first time I think in any mock or real draft I have taken Trey Harris. I could be wrong, but I feel like I don't have many opportunities to draft him. But here, approaching the back half of the second round, I think that's a great spot for him. I don't love kind of the offense and his potential role in it as a earlier pick than this. But, I obviously could be wrong on the way that the Chargers want to use him. But I think that the draft capital speaks enough that he deserves a look or at least consideration in this range. There are also not a lot of other guys I love in this range. And so it's kind of like, well, let me take a shot on Harris here and when, he's kind of the end of a tier or the top of a next tier, kind of depending on how you look at him, of the guys left available. So yeah, I went with Trey Harris, and, can't say I love this pick, but I don't hate getting him in this range either.
No, it makes perfect sense. No issue with it. With the draft capital and the situation, he's in a very good spot. Taylor, who did you go with your 2-8 selection?
I know a lot of times when we do these mocks, this is the range where you say it doesn't matter what their floor is. It's all about what can they do, what's their ceiling. So I went with who I believe is the most talented positional player left on the board, and that's Kyle Williams. Even though that wide receiver room is kind of crowded or empty, depending on who you talk to, it's just going to have to shake out eventually. And I think Kyle Williams has the talent and possibly the role needed to be a fantasy performer for us both this year and for the next couple of years.
Love the pick. I was hoping he was going to fall one more spot. To me, he did not. Puts me in a weird range because honestly, right now, I feel like the players you're going to get at 2-9, 2-10, 2-11 are going to be very similar to the players that you get at 304, 305, 306. So I don't think that there's a huge difference, which is something that's good for you guys to know in your rookie drafts. If you have a later second, might not be a bad idea to trade back and maybe get some future draft capital. It's always good to kind of move in and out of these tiers as you see fit. There's 2 or 3 guys, like I said, that I see very similar as far as value, as far as upside, things like that go. I'm going to go ahead and take Tuten here. It's a tricky one because in some senses, the Jaguars room is wide open. In other senses, it's really difficult. And so I'm not quite sure how this is going to all play out. Right now we have kind of the or designation for Tank Bigsby or Travis Etienne as a starter. We don't know who the starter is going to be. Tuten is the guy right after that, but we know that this is the guy that this regime took. So is that going to play heavily into this as we move forward? How long are Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby expected to be, significant producers for this team? I don't know. We're going to kind of have to wait and see. It's going to be a really rich, interesting season. You could argue 3 and maybe even 4 different guys could end up being the leading scorer in this running back room. So, but I think the 3 guys we're looking at is Tuten along with Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. Tristan, you took the guy that I was kind of debating here, specifically because of the news that really makes him a lot more intriguing.
Yeah, I was really hoping you wouldn't take him, so I'm glad that you took Tuten. I'm a Travis Etienne. Well, I'm also a Trevor Etienne person, but I guess apparently I'm just an Etienne person. So I think he's going to end up being the starter, and Tank Bigsby is going to be kind of the fill in and spell back and whatnot. And so because of that, and obviously I could be wrong on that, but I've just kind of stayed away from Tuten as a draft pick. But I think that, there's a good chance that I'll regret that if they decide to move on maybe from Etienne, or, there's always these weird moves that you see near the end of training camp when they realize that they want to give the younger guys a shot or whatever it may be. So, but I went with Dylan Sampson. So I was really happy that you didn't take him. I almost took him over Trey Harris. If I was drafting and I had taken, I had the 107 and the 207 and the 307 and whatnot, and I had taken Judkins at the 107, I 100% would have taken Dylan Sampson at the 207 based on who was there, because of everything we've talked about. I feel way better now if I have a team that has them both, knowing that I have the guy there, than the risk of just having Judkins and maybe thinking that Sampson will fall to me and then missing out, and who knows what happens, and then you're like, wow, I wasted a pick. So I don't know. I feel really good with the combination of them. I don't know who it's going to be early, but I do feel strongly about if you can lock up Sampson, if you're a Judkins drafter, it's a wise thing to do. Don't overdraft him, certainly, but he was an easy pick for me here.
Taylor, who did you go with at 211?
I'm going to continue the run of taking our guy in these muddled backfields. I went with Jaden Blue. I think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be a fun offense to watch this year. They added George Pickens. They have Jake Ferguson coming back. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is always electric. So someone in that run game might have an opportunity, and there's a lot of buzz right now for Jaden Blue. So even if he has a spark in the first couple of weeks, you might be able to trade him and get someone with more proven veteran talent. So give me a guy with the potential for the dynasty value at 211, Jaden Blue.
I think there's a lot of potential there. You're absolutely right. And sticking with potential, I think this was one of the players that had some of the highest ceilings of the players, especially in this range. But there was also a lot of risk involved with this guy. But it's Elijah Arroyo that I went with at 212. We saw his tape, and some of the things that he was able to do in the receiving game, I mean, were really, really nice. And then he looked absolutely special at the Senior Bowl, what he was doing, setting up defenders, getting himself open, making big catches. The issue was always going to be twofold for him. One, can he stay healthy? That's been his, no pun intended, Achilles heel his entire college career. But on top of that, he's on a team that has an established tight end already in Noah Fant. Well, they cleared up one of those obstacles real early on. They ended up cutting Noah Fant. It's now him and A.J. Barner, for, the lack of recognition he gets in dynasty circles, he's not a bad player. So I don't think this is a slam dunk that it's Elijah Arroyo's job. But this is clearly a guy that they want to get involved. So I'm really curious to see how this all plays out and if and when he gets heavily involved in this offense. So he was in a group with quite a few guys, and even the guy that you ended up taking here, Tristan, which I think was a really good pick. But before we get to that, let's wrap up the second round. So at 2-1, we have Jack Bech, Jaden Higgins, Cam Skattebo, Luther Burden, Mason Taylor, Cam Ward, Trey Harris, Kyle Williams, Bashore Tuten, Dylan Sampson, Jaden Blue, and Elijah Arroyo. Tristan, our final round here. You're on the clock. Who are you taking at 301?
I'm taking Jaxson Dart. I just think that at this point, even in a 1 QB league, you're looking at draft capital in a lot as a kind of determinant in a lot of ways. If I had a strong QB room, I wouldn't take Jaxson Dart here, even though I think the value is really good. But I just think that there's a good chance that he's going to be a starter in quicker than later, and I like the pieces that are being amassed for the Giants. Notably Malik Neighbors, but I think that they have some good pieces that they're trying to build around a quarterback, and he offers a little bit in the running game, not quite as much as the guy that Taylor took here next, but I think the draft capital on Jaxson Dart is why I'd take him at this point.
Makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I was considering him. And the guy that you took, Taylor, who did you take at 302?
I went with Jalen Milroe, also swinging for the fences here. If there's going to be one guy out of this class that can really flip the script when it comes to the quarterback position, I believe it's Jalen Milroe. Not that he's safer than Cam Ward or Jaxson Dart, but if he does get on the field and he's able to keep a starting job, just what he can do in the rushing game is unbelievable. So I'm happy to take a swing on him at the start of the third round. I think any time from here on out makes sense, even in a 1 QB league.
Absolutely. I'm much more apt to take a guy, even though, a Tyler Shuck or Shedeur Sanders are on the board. They don't have the rushing upside. In a 1 QB, I don't need safety. I can find safety in a trade very easily. I'm looking for upside. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So with him going there, I went with a name that I haven't talked about a lot this offseason, but I did like his tape. If you go back to the Dynasty Nerds episodes, you'll hear me talk about this guy. And of the three of us, he was a guy that I was probably the highest on because I liked how he moved for a bigger player, and that's Tory Horton. He ended up falling to the 5th round, partly due to the injury that he sustained, but he has been one of the biggest risers in all of camp. Everybody keeps talking about the plays that he's making, and when you look at that room, it's pretty wide open after JSN. So he's somebody that could continue to ascend and be one of the latest late round rookie draft picks at the wide receiver position that really just skyrockets in value. I like what I have in Tory Horton, and I'm willing to take him here in the early part of the third. Tristan, Are you finally going to jump in and take a tight end?
I am. Before I mention which one, though, I am both happy and sad that you took Tory Horton here. He was the guy after the end of the draft, I think the last one that I mentioned as a guy I considered. I love Tory Horton. I think you taking him here just shows that if you are still waiting on your rookie draft, you can't get him in the last rounds anymore. He had, as you said, he's shown out well, but I love Tory Horton as a prospect, and I've gotten him in later point in some drafts that went earlier this offseason, so I think that's a great pick. But I did go the tight end position, and I think with a player that I've drafted in virtually all of these that we have done, which is Harold Fannin Jr. I love his receiving ability. You don't get points, at least in any league I've been in, for good blocking as a tight end, and that's not exactly what he does well, but that's okay. I think that he's going to end up being a contributor earlier or sooner than later for the Browns. I know they have Njoku this year, but they also have a lot of kind of aging pieces, and they're also at the same time looking kind of like they're going to end up having to reset their roster, or at least the quarterback position. And that kind of resets your whole team. So I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from Njoku before too long, just because it doesn't fit with what their team is doing. So yeah, sign me up for Harold Fannin here. Middle of the third round and later is where I like to start taking rookie tight ends. And he was my tight end 3 coming into the NFL draft. So thrilled about taking him here.
Makes a lot of sense. Taylor, who are you going with at 305?
I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos wide receiver, Pat Bryant. He's continued to impress, it seems like, coming out of camp and now into the preseason. It just looks like he's primed to have a role in the Sean Payton offense. We all know that the Denver Broncos depth chart means nothing at this stage in the game. So no matter where he shows up on there, I just believe that his talent can show up and that Payton will find a way to use him.
It's crazy because I still have like 4 or 5 guys that I want to draft here, which really does show me that end of the second, man, that is not the place I want to be. If I'm taking dart throws, I'd much rather just accumulate multiple thirds, because I think there are quite a few players that I'm pretty excited about here. And I'm going to take one of them. This one is not going to be a big surprise if you've been listening to me at all this offseason. This is a player that I have been pounding the table for, is a better player than what a lot of people think, better than his draft capital would suggest, and that's Kyle Monangai. All we've heard since camp is he's moving up the depth charts. He's getting work with the ones. He could be the 2 in this offense to DeAndre Swift, and we see the Gibbs and the David Montgomery aspect with these 2 players. I know that there are still Roschon Johnson truthers out there, and I know that they are still in on him, and it's not that he's this horrible, terrible player. But here's the thing. He's already had 2 years to show what he can do, and he did not take advantage of it at all. This is now a brand new coaching staff that has no investment in him at all, and he's already injured and was not able to play in the preseason game. So what did we see? The supposedly 5th on the depth chart, Kyle Monangai, was the first guy out there playing with the ones, or not the ones, but the first team that was out there. I truly do believe, we've heard Ben Johnson even say it, and their offensive coordinator say it, that he is going to be somebody that is going to help us this fall. For a 7th round pick, those are very bullish statements. So I'm excited about Kyle Monangai. Tristan, you going to go with a running back, a quarterback? Who are you going to take here?
I'm going running back here. I'm going Woody Marks, kind of looking at a running back room in Houston that has a lot of age and not a lot of history of health of late, at least, especially. So I'm going Woody Marks. I think that he could come in and be both a pass catching back early and get some running work as well, and end up being a guy that I could put into my starting lineup as maybe a flex or a bye week fill in, even in this rookie year. So I'm going Woody Marks. I have similar to you, I have a lot of guys in this range that I would like to be able to draft. And he's on that list. And I think that there was a lower chance that he would have dropped to me at my next pick. So I locked him up here.
It's a great pick. Taylor, who are you going to take here at 308?
I'm going to go with Devin Neal. There's a lot of talent in this year's running back draft class. I think I just want to get as many of those guys as I can get. We've seen the Saints in the past have had a history with their players of just kind of sitting out the entire season if they start getting banged up and they don't look like they've got a good chance. We do not expect the Saints to be good this year. So in a world where Alvin Kamara does start getting a little battered and beaten, he could possibly just be done the rest of the season. So I could see there just being an opportunity for Neal to come in and just show what he can do.
Absolutely. Could totally see that happening. And sometimes there's players that I think we just get bored with, and there hasn't been crazy amount of news on Jalen Noel. But I took him here at 3.9. He was a guy that was easily going a round earlier on in the process, closer to the draft and pre-draft for sure. Still really like the player a lot. There's still been some highlights of him, beating coverage, big touchdowns, things like that. So the highlight plays have been there. I think just overall, we just got kind of a little bit bored with him, and we've moved on. We haven't had the crazy news like we have out of the other guys, but I still very much so believe in the player. And to get a third-round wide receiver in the late third round is pretty good value overall. So I'm going to take Jalen Noel here at 309. Tristan, who are you going to go with at 310?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I'm an Etienne family drafter or believer, and so I'm taking Trevor Etienne here at the end of the third, or my last pick in the third. Similarly, I think he's a good player. I think that he got pushed down in a strong running back class, but he still went higher than, some people expected. I was a believer kind of later into the draft cycle that he might go earlier, and I like the landing spot because it's not like he has a huge, barrier to getting on the field. He had a great preseason start by fumbling the first time he touched the ball on a punt, so I love that for him. But it can only go up from there, right? Like you can make any narrative you want out of good or bad things in the preseason, and so I'm going to choose to say that fumbling your first touch on a punt return means that it's all arrows are going to go up from here because it can't get much worse. So yeah, I'm taking Trevor Etienne. No shame, no apology for taking your guy at the end of the third round, and I've been a believer for a while, so sticking with that.
All right, you taking your guy here at the end of the third, Taylor?
I'm hoping I'm taking somebody else's guy here at the end of the third. I'm going to go with Tahj Brooks. After the injury to Zach Moss, a lot of people seem to like Brooks and what opportunity could exist. I don't know if you're in the same camp, but a lot of people seem to think that Chase Brown is just going to take this job and run away with it. So I'm more in that side of things where I don't see Brooks getting as many opportunities just because Brown will do a great job in his role. So I'll still take him. I think there's a lot of people out there who are excited to get him. So maybe I could trade him for Aaron Jones or someone like that really early on and turn a 311 into an actual veteran starter.
All right, I'm going to make my last pick here. And then after that, guys, let's go ahead and go through the fourth round, but zero analysis. Just just take your pick and we'll go on. So that way people can still get kind of what they're thinking in the fourth round here. Last pick that we're going to actually discuss, I'm going to take Jacory Crosky-Merritt here. Really, really like what I've seen out of him so far. Another guy that kind of fell in the draft due to really not getting to play much this past season. But I do think he's a talented player, and it's a fairly wide open room there in Washington, which really, really helps things overall. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jacory Crosky-Merritt. Let's go ahead and round up the third round here. So we've got Jaxson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Tory Horton, Harold Fannin, Pat Bryant, Kyle Monangai, Woody Marks, Devin Neal, Jalen Noel, Trevor Etienne, Tahj Brooks, and Jacory Crosky-Merritt. That wraps things up in the third round. So we're going to do a fourth round here. We're not going to necessarily give any analysis tied into this, but let's go ahead. So let's see. Tristan, you would be up first. Who'd you take at 4-1?
I took Savion Williams, the receiver for the Packers.
All right. Taylor, who'd you go with?
I took Jordan James, running back for the 49ers.
All right. Then I was up. I ended up going with Jalen Royals, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. Then you're back up, Tristan.
Yeah, and I went with Tai Felton, the receiver for the Vikings.
Taylor?
I ended up going with Jarquez Hunter. Keep the running back train going.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to go with DJ Giddens here at 4-6. Tristan, who are you going to take at 4-7?
He's not in our list, but I'm going to take Dante Thornton, the receiver for the Raiders.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, you got him right before I could get him. Terrace Ferguson's fallen a little bit. Well, I kind of told your pick. But Taylor took him at 4-8 there. That puts me back on the clock. Kind of surprised to see this guy still here. I was considering him in the third. I'm going to go with Brashard Smith at 4-9. We each get one more pick. Tristan, go ahead.
Man, this is tough. I think I'm going to go with Aronde Gadsden the second.
All right. Taylor, your last pick.
I'm going to take Shedeur Sanders.
I was considering taking him here.
That was the hesitation for me too.
Yeah, a little bit of upside gamble there, but in the fourth round, who cares if you miss? I will go ahead and go with Isaac Tesla, third round wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. So that wraps things up in our rookie mock draft. Would love to hear you guys in the comments. Who do you think had the best draft of the three of us? Who took the best players? And also, where was the spot where a guy just fell too far or a guy that was just taken way too soon? Let us know. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.